Stardust, Chapter 32, Part 2. 7:05 p.m., May 22nd, 2015. Containment.
The raid perpetrated on the alien facility has provided us with 4 avenues of research. They will hopefully provide us with an edge over the aliens should they choose to escalate their plans from skirmishes and abductions into full-scale war.
Moira Valen dictated onto her tablet as she perused the files on everything that has been gathered thus far. She chose the first file, which included several autopsies of the humans found at the base.
The first breakthrough is the appearance of what appears to be a hostile human faction operating in concert with the aliens here on Earth. Examinations of their brains show very little damage that result from the aliens' attempts at mind control, which leads me to believe that the aliens may have found a less destructive way to assault the minds of humans. Or, these humans choose to willingly join the aliens with no mental persuasion necessary. Traitors.
Valen thought venomously before clearing her throat to continue dictating.
In addition to the humans that were hostile found during the operation, hundreds of human corpses were found at a disposal site with numerous signs of surgical scarring on their bodies. These surgeries indicate a clear progression in the aliens' understanding of human physiology, as well as their attempts to augment it. I think it would be safe to assume that the hostile humans that were encountered were the final product of the aliens' attempts to create such augments. Skeletal and muscle structure both appear to be reinforced to allow for much greater strength and endurance than a human being of similar stature. Attached armor camera footage shows several feats of strength and athleticism that simply should not be possible. Numerous alterations are also present in their blood, organs, and nervous system, which accounts for a near-perfect pain tolerance and ability to withstand normal fatal wounds. The nervous system and brain structure also seem to indicate the potential for dramatically enhanced reaction times.
Valen tapped her tablet to attach 2 more files to her notes.
Several of these enhancements show similar methods of manipulation in the Muton and Berserker specimens. It was previously unknown how the aliens were capable of such thorough genetic enhancement for their troops, but the second discovery may have unlocked the secret behind it. A substance that has been dubbed as MELD was recovered from the alien base, and it appears to be comprised of...
A soft ping came from the tablet, followed by a small mailbox icon in the corner of the tablet's display.
Stop recording,
Valen commanded before tapping the mailbox to read the message she had been sent. From Dr. Hongu Marazuki. To Dr. Moira Valen. Date: May 22nd, 2015. 7:10 p.m. Subject: Found it. Dr. Valen, I do believe we've had a breakthrough. The other astronomers and I have been working night and day, using the parameters you've provided to us to try and locate the invader's home system. The archetype systems you outlined for us narrowed down the potential systems to just under a dozen, and when we fired up that new TED device on one of the satellites, we were able to narrow it down to just 1. The system designated as Omega Centauri was considered a curiosity prior to the invader's arrival due to the wild oscillations of its orbit. Prior to your request, it was simply assumed that the star was orbiting a black hole and might actually no longer exist due to the number of light years away it is from us. After the TED system showed a positive reaction to the star, we did a more in-depth analysis, and we were able to confirm the presence of a planet within the system. The star is orbiting the planet. Don't ask me how, because I don't have the faintest idea. I've run the numbers 10 different times. I've had the others run the numbers and we all get the same results. The star is orbiting the planet. If this wasn't quite possibly the invader's home planet, I'd be inflicting to find this upon the scientific community as we speak. A star orbiting a planet. Just thinking about it gives me a headache. I hope it helps you out, Moira. And I hope it leads to the end of the war. Hell, if you find some way to send a nuke over to their planet, then give me a heads up. I want to leave a message on the bloody thing before it gets sent away. Attached to this email is an encrypted coordinate of the system and the planet itself. Let me know if you need any further information. Thanks. Dr. Hongu Marazuki. Valen simply stared at the message before rereading it 2 more times.
I'd almost forgotten about it. I contacted Marazuki to search for Twilight's homeworld under the guise of finding the invader's origin, but we found it. Her homeworld. If I tell her, then she'll likely wish to be returned home as quickly as she can, but if I don't, then
A trilling scream cut through containment, and Valen looked over her shoulder to see the captured sectoid strapped to a surgical table with its limbs spread wide. 2 robotic arms were in the process of inserting metal probes into its skull, even as it struggled against the restraints. Again, the sectoid screamed, and Valen looked back down at the email.
"You're a monster, Moira Valen,"
she told herself, and she could not find no grounds to argue that point.
"Twilight calls you a friend and helps you without asking for anything in return, after all that you've done to her. You're going to deny her the possibility of returning home just so you don't have to work hard for your reality-shattering breakthroughs. You're no friend. You're a monster."
Valen clenched her jaw and stood up before turning to exit containments.
"I'm stepping out for a moment. Proceed with the operation as planned, though if the rule breaker restraints fail you, you're to purge the specimen immediately. Understood?" she said to the nearest scientist before heading to the exit. The door opened and Valen nearly ran face first into a man wearing a business suit. He had one hand out to press the door controls, but he had quickly retracted it upon seeing Valen standing in the doorway. A flash of emotions went across his face before it settled on surprise, and then unease when another alien scream came from containment before the doors closed behind Valen. "Dr. Moira Valen, I presume. My name is Dr. Dwight, and I'm here on behalf of the Council, and I don't suppose I could have a few moments of your time?" The introduction, as well as the man's slick appearance, made Valen's eye twitch with irritation. "Only if you can talk and walk. My time is valuable, Vide, and I don't have much of it to waste on the type of redundancy that you're asking for. The Council can review all of my findings at the end of the month, but if you have any questions, ask them now."
Valen turned and began to power walk away from containment and towards the Stardust labs, and Vide had to rush to catch up despite having a significant stride advantage. "Thank you, and I appreciate you for taking the time. The last 2 months have generated, quite a few amazing developments. Have they not?" Vide asked affirmably, though the attempt at friendliness was lost on Valen. "All of these developments seem to have come from the specialist located in the Stardust labs. The specialist must be quite the genius, yes?" Still, no response. "Considering a significant amount of those developments are for the devices that use Illyrium in creative ways, I have to wonder if the specialist isn't somehow related to the aliens."
"Cut to the chase, Vide. What do you want?"
"Well, just a moment's time with the specialist is all," Vide answered, and Valen turned to face the man when he made the request. The smile he had was warm and disarming, and it gave Valen the chills.
"Follow me, and we'll see what can be arranged,"
she said after a long moment. The two passed through the corridors in silence before finally coming to a stop at the Stardust labs. Both the guards nodded to Valen before turning to eye Vide, and she could only smirk at what was going to happen next.
"Guards, detain this man!"
I beg your pardon?" Vide asked, sounding shocked as the guards tensed and drew their sidearms.
"Did you choose the name Vide, the French word for blank? You would have gotten further if you said your name was Doe or Smith,"
Valen explained. "I'm not certain why that makes..." Vide started to say, but Valen cut him off.
"When I first saw you, you were about to enter containment without my authorization. I don't care if you're sent by the Council or if you're one of the Council yourself. When you enter the Science Wings, you're entering my domain, and God himself needs permission for me to enter containment regardless of their clearance. Now, you will wait here until a security detail can be arranged to escort you to a cell, where you will enjoy our hospitality for the indefinite future."
Valen finished with a vindictive smirk. The door to Stardust opened and she stepped through, and the last she saw of Vide was his disarming smile and his raised hands at the 2 security personnel reaching out for him. Shioji Zhang had just finished his evening workout when he nearly bumped into Captain Fujikawa and Yuri Romalov from Strike 6. Both greeted Zhang with a smile and a wave, though Fujikawa's wave was rather awkward due to the crutches under her arms.
"Hey, Xiao. So have you seen Matt or Lana?"
Fujikawa asked.
"Yuri and I were asked to meet in the briefing room in about 2 minutes, and they were supposed to meet us there."
"I'm afraid that they're currently engaged in other activities at the Stardust Labs, if memory serves. May I ask why you're meeting here?" Yuri supplied the answer. "We met with a suit who claimed to have further questions regarding our part in the base assault. Said Council may have a special mission for us." The big man simply shrugged as though it really didn't matter.
"First rule of the army, You do something well enough, then you're rewarded with more of the same. Come on, Yuri, I don't want to be late.
Fujikawa said with an exaggerated sigh before opening the briefing room door and heading inside. Zhang watched them enter and almost turned to leave, but something caught his eye in the room. A suitcase. Not suspicious, but the placement. Standing vertically on a chair in the corner of the room with the broad side facing in the middle of the room. That reminds me. The suspicions wouldn't go away, so he simply closed his eyes and looked again. Zhang's service with the Chinese Special Forces was the proudest time in his life, where he honed his skills as a sniper to rival any other marksman in the world. When his departure from the armed forces was all but guaranteed, he sought alternative employment, which led to his eventual career as a thief and assassin with the Triads. When he closed his eyes and looked back into the room and into the briefcase, he saw one of Tirad's favorite methods of assassination. "Get out!" Zhang shouted as he stepped into the doorway of the briefing room while leveling an accusatory finger at the suitcase. "There's a bomb!" There was the briefest moments of hesitation as the two soldiers processed what Zhang said before they both turned and bolted towards the door. Fujikawa's crutches were not built for speed, however, and with all the chairs in the way, she quickly fell behind.
Fuck, 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 fuck!
Fujikawa screamed in rapid succession when one chair leg caught her crutches and threatened to tumble her to the floor. She would have fallen if Yuri hadn't scooped her up and threw her over one shoulder like a sack of potatoes and flew through the door. Zhang hit the door controls and the room was sealed shut. A moment passed and nothing happens, other than the small collection of soldiers who came running at Zhang's shout. "Zhang, I appreciate the warning, but are you sure—" The door bent slightly outwards and a jet of flame blasted through the cracks in the breached door, and all the soldiers in the hallway were blasted off of their feet. Valen made her way to her console and dropped her tablet off before picking up her comms headset. Before she could activate it though, the door to the labs opened up again. "Now then, Dr. Valen, I think I would like to see the Stardust specialist, if you have a free moment," Vide said with his affable smile that was completely at odds with the two bodies that he dragged into the lab and dropped onto the floor. One security guard's head was twisted at an impossible angle, while the other clutched at his throat and struggled for a breath that would never come. The affable smile remained on Vide's face even as he brought his heel down violently on the back of the dying man's neck before pulling the guard's sidearm and pointing it at Valen. "We should have done this weeks ago," Matt couldn't help but think as he glanced at Twilight, then back at the movie. She acted exactly like my sister did throughout the whole movie. Scene for scene. Well, maybe with less talking. Just as Shin had predicted, Twilight had appeared to love every moment of the movie, though she had shown some understandable discomfort when the scene in the forest with the slain unicorn was shown. There had been a brief moment where they had to pause the movie to reassure Twilight that no one in the room wanted to drink her blood, but other than that, things had proceeded smoothly. The movie's confrontation had come and gone, and now the house cup was about to be assigned. Even in the low light, Matt could see Twilight's eyes sparkling with anticipation, and what she no doubt knew what was going to happen. Having that anticipation interrupted by the door to the habitat opening was annoying to say the least, and Matt turned to give an annoyed look at whoever decided to destroy the moments.
Alarm!
Valen screamed before falling forward in an uncontrolled tumble, and time froze as Matt caught sight of the figure standing behind her. It was the man that he had run into earlier that day, complete with his disarming smile and business suit, but in his hands was what Matt instantly recognized as a 9mm standard-issued sidearm pointed in their direction. He could see the finger tighten around the trigger and the lazily spinning bullet exit the barrel. "Stop!" The faint golden glow caught the bullet and stopped it in place, and Matt was rewarded with a spike of pain in his forehead. Not that it would have mattered. The man had fired a gun at him and his friends, and that made Matt angry. "Strike!" The bullet reversed direction and flew back at the shooter's left eye just as quickly as it left the barrel, and to Matt's utter disbelief, he saw the man's eye lock onto the bullet before dodging it entirely like a Hollywood action movie hero. Even as he leaned out of the way, he brought the sidearm up to fire again, but was forced to leap back as Twilight's table flew through the room at the doorway. It collided with a metallic bang, but before it had even fallen to the ground, Lena had crossed the distance and planted a flying left-handed punch into the center of the table. The center third of the table was pulverized and the shooter was showered with the debris from the strike. Another shot rang out that clipped Lena's left shoulder before she was onto him. Rather than struggle for the gun, he allowed it to be knocked aside while he drew a knife with his left hand. The smile on his face grew as he saw Lana's eyes lock onto the blade, and he lofted it into the air. Lana's eyes followed the weapon as it arced upwards into the air, and she was completely blindsided by a wicked right cross. The blow struck her across the face and sent her sprawling, which allowed the intruder the time to catch the lofted knife in his left hand behind his back. The knife quickly switched hands and swept in a lateral cut to halt Matt's charge as he rushed past Lana. Matt stopped just short of getting sliced by the intruder's attack and quickly found himself on the defensive as he sidestepped another knife blow only to catch a left-handed palm strike to his ribcage. Even as his eyes watered and he staggered backwards, Matt came to a dawning realization and he smiled at the intruder. The knife came up, but the killing blow hesitated as he no doubt came to the same realization. They had both taken their eyes off of Lana. First, a handprint appeared around the man's right forearm, followed by the muffled crack of bone. Second, his right shin bent 45 degrees in an entirely wrong direction. Third, a crease showed up on the man's suit between his neck and shoulder, followed by the snap of his collarbone breaking. Last, he flew through the air before coming to a stop on his stomach with his right arm twisted viciously behind him and the broken bones in his forearm giving him a second elbow.
Don't move.
The words seemingly came from thin air, and Lana appeared above the man with one knee planted firmly on his back. She had the man's broken arm pinned beneath her knee as she felt what pockets she could from that position for any other weapons. What started out as a scream of pain developed into an unbalanced laughter from the intruder.
Miss Harris and Miss Jenkins, I presume. You live up to your reputations. It's a tragedy that it will not matter one bit in the end. You can't stop Ascension. The aliens will succeed. Matt?
Came a tiny question from the habitat, and he glanced over his shoulder to see Twilight's horrified expression. The door to the habitat attempted to close, but the debris from the table blocked it. She saw everything, Matt realized, and he followed her wide-eyed gaze to the dead security guards beside the now thoroughly beaten intruder.
Twilight, don't look. Just stay right there, okay?
He asked as gently as he could before retrieving the knife that the intruder had dropped.
And you!
The intruder spat at Twilight.
You think you're helping humanity, but you aren't. You're keeping us from our true destiny. You really wanted to help? You would all kill yourself!
Anything else the intruder was going to say was lost when Lana grabbed him by the scalp and slammed his face into the metal floor twice in rapid succession. A low moan escaped the intruder's lips, which resulted in a third strike. Matt winced as he heard Twilight's distress at the violence, but he couldn't spare the time to worry about that moment.
Now where's the pistol?
He thought before turning to see the other figure in the room.
Oh, shit. You are helping the aliens? You are helping them?
Valen screamed as she raised the discarded sidearm towards the intruder. Her breath came in short gasps, and her eyes had contracted to pinpricks. Her hands and the sidearm shook as she struggled to keep the intruder in her sights, and Lana looked about a second away from simply standing and letting her take the shot.
Moira, we've got him,
Matt said as loud as he dared, as to not really startle Valen.
If you kill him now, then we'll never learn just how far things go. He's more valuable to us as a living subject.
He took another step towards Valen, and when she lowered the gun, he snatched it from her grasp and stepped back. Because of his quick retreat, he wasn't able to prevent her from planting a running kick into the side of the man's head. Valen screamed, and she cocked her foot back for another kick before Matt stepped forward to restrain her. He dropped the knife and kicked it away so he could wrap one arm around Valen to carry her into the habitat. The moment his arm wrapped around her, the scientist went limp and began to weep in German.
Matt?
Twilight tried again.
He's hurt really bad.
Her eyes were still locked onto the intruder, though she kept stealing glances towards the two dead guards.
Twilight, that man was going to kill us all,
Matt explained bluntly, as he all but dropped Valen in the chair he had been sitting in just a few moments earlier.
I know you don't like seeing people get hurt, but it was either him or us, and both Lana and I would do it again if it meant protecting our friends. Please, just stay there with the doctors and we'll handle this. I promise. I'll be back.
With that, he turned away and kicked the debris from the door so it could finally close behind him. Neither Joel nor Kim had moved an inch since the fight had started. I can't worry about her, Matt reminded himself as he approached one of the dead guards and lifted the radio. Command Actual. This is Harris. Do you copy? Any response was overwhelmed by the sound of gunfire. Maybe I'm just being paranoid, Bradford told himself from the 10th time as he surveyed the holographic globe in the center of the Situation Room. Maybe it's a psychological thing. I know I have the capacity to see the future if I turn the rule breaker off, so maybe I'm worrying that disaster is around every corner if I can't predict it. He had to resist the urge to chuckle at that train of thought. Humans have soldier just fine even without fortune-tellers holding their hands. Command Security, Bradford's radio buzzed. Our internal monitoring just went down. None of the internal security measures are responding to my commands. I'm blind and I'm deaf. Commander! One of the techs shouted from the control pit. A confused look was clear on his face as he looked to Bradford and reported. The Sky Ranger hangar doors are opening. Automated control is locked out.
Sir, there's a report of an explosion in one of the barracks briefing rooms. No casualties reported and the fire is under control.
A second tech jumped up and shouted. Set alert status to red. Scramble the interceptor squadrons and bring all strike teams on standby. And get the National Guard airborne. Bradford shouted quickly before tapping the button on his wrist to turn off his suppressor. A shot rang out and the 9mm slug entered the back of Bradford's skull. Bradford ducked down just a second before the shot rang out, and he felt the bullet kiss his scalp as it passed. He twisted to the left and turned to face the shooter, who anticipated the move and fired a second shot through his heart. Bradford ducked down just a second before the shot ran out, and he felt the bullet kiss his scalp as it passed. He twisted to the right to avoid the second shot and charged forward to wrestle the gun from the shooter's grasp. The now disarmed shooter fell backwards, and Bradford brought the sidearm up to cover him. What did you do? Bradford shouted even as his mind burned with thousands of possible outcomes. Tell me! The shooter didn't answer or move or even react in any way than to stare blankly at the person he had just tried to kill. Commander, I have multiple hostile contacts inbound on the base's location. Mother of God, one of the techs said before standing up and looking at the globe. One red spot appeared over North America, then 2, then 6, then a dozen, with at least 2 of comparable size to the ship captured during the gangplank operation. Bradford knocked out his would-be assassin with a strike from the pistol before tapping his headset to access the base's intercom. All personnel, this is not a drill. Enemy forces are inbound. All strike team personnel are to report for imminent defense. All interceptor crews report to your fighters. All non-essential personnel are to stay into your quarters or current location. Good luck.
Sir, shouldn't you remain in the Situation Room?
One of the techs shouted over the chaos that was now erupting. No sooner had the last word left the tech's mouth than the globe flickered and died. I'll know where I'll need to be, was all Bradford said as he made his way to the armory.